Did that movie hurt you, buddy? Get that movie. Go get that movie. Go get Wounds. Go get him. Get him, buddy. Go get him. Go get him. Get back up here. It's okay. I'm not going to let it hurt you anymore. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Just can't catch a break with these films. Today we're talking Wounds, and I know for some this dropped on Netflix. For me, it was available on Hulu this morning. I watched it. We're going to talk about it. So let's do it. So disturbing and mysterious things begin to happen to a bartender in New Orleans after he picks up a phone left behind at his bar. Yeah. Okay, so this movie stars Armie Hammer, Dakota Johnson, Zazie Beetz, a great cast, and here's what I'll say. They're good in the film. You know, as much as they could possibly do, they did it, and the chemistry's okay. I want to know, whose idea was this? I don't want to sit back and critique this writer/director. I know it's a difficult thing making a movie. It's not something I would ever feel like I'd be up to task of doing. I feel like I would fall completely flat, as many people have, because it's a difficult thing to make a good film. So when I say what I'm going to say, I don't want it to sound completely negative towards the people who worked on this film. Armie Hammer is a really good actor. Oscar-nominated actor. Dakota Johnson, I believe, is slowly getting better. Peanut Butter Falcon earlier this year. She was awesome in that film. Zazie Beetz, we just saw her in The Joker. She's great. I love her. What happened? What is this movie? Seriously, I was watching the final scene, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but when it ended, I could see the ending coming as the screen was being covered up, and I'm like, please don't let this be the ending, because up until this point, I was not enjoying the movie, but it could have been more enjoyable if I would have gotten some sort of answer of what was happening, what was going on in this film. This was the first time this year that I can say, without a doubt, this was a complete waste of time. Is it the worst movie I've seen this year? Probably not. I've seen almost 200. I've seen a few that, you know, there's been worse acting, a worse script, a worse plot, a worse concept, completely botching the comedic execution. Plenty of comedies that have fallen flat this year. But nothing has left me just, like this movie did. Here's what I'll say. It's not all the worst thing I've ever seen. Like I said, the big reason for my upset nature, my disappointment, is because there was no payoff at the end. I am not the biggest fan of the conventional horror movie with jump scares. This is not that. This was at least trying to do something different. I'll say that. And it excelled in moments when it was bringing together pretty solid cinematography. Like I said, the filmmaking here is not the worst. It's more the writing and where the story goes. With really solid acting and trying to bring us intensity, and they prove that they were kind of onto something in the first half of the movie, because they set up this mystery, especially in the first act in particular. They set something up. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. It all kind of spawns from this phone that is left at the bar of the bartender, played by Armie Hammer. And then all of these creepy things start happening, and I'm like, okay, this is creepy. Absolutely. Some of these things are effective, and it's not using the conventional jump scares. It's kind of going around the fact that it's a horror film, and it's more of a thriller in a way. And I like that. But then everything I feel like the director was going for begins to falter in the second act. It begins to kind of fall apart, and this movie does not know what direction it wants to go in. Is it a pure horror film? Is it something that kind of focuses on this man, his many relationships that he is juggling, the lies that he is telling, the deceit he is throwing at people, and people are throwing at him, and it slowly builds in his character, and he begins to kind of lose his mind as he progresses through this film, and you see that, and Armie Hammer, once again, he's good in the role. He's a good actor, but it just goes nowhere. And then when we reach that third act and we want some sort of payoff, at least for what was set up at the beginning of the movie, we just don't get it. And I mean, when I say we don't get it, we get nothing. And when the movie was over, I wasn't sure what I just watched, why I watched it, why I spent all of my time for this, and I get it, it's called Wounds, and there are multiple times when our character is researching things, and it's like there's some sort of backstory here. We're unsure of what it is until it starts to come around in the third act, and he's starting to get these answers that he's looking for. We're not getting answers, but he's getting answers. Like, okay, this is building up to something. Let's see what it... When a movie ends on a bad note, such as what this movie ended on, it really sours the rest of the film. And I hate to think of it like that, but that's just the case, right? When there's a really solid, strong first act, not saying this first act was really strong, but it was okay for what it was. But then it kind of devolves into what I believe this film devolved into, and that's what you get. Those are normally the most disappointing films that have faulty third acts as opposed to maybe a faulty first act and it slowly gets better. Wounds is not just a really bad third act, a really bad finale, final scene with no answers. It slowly gets worse and worse, and I mean progressively worse, not slightly, and by the time you're, 50, 55, an hour into the movie, it's like, I need something to make me want to keep watching. I mean, I kept watching, I kept going, expecting things to maybe improve a bit, expecting the story to get more interesting, but it got worse. And sticking around to the final scene actually is going to bring my score way lower than it otherwise would have been because it ended so poorly, guys. Wounds was an absolute mess of a film. It did not know what it wanted to be. It tried to turn the horror genre on its head, and I can applaud that. I can say I respect the fact that it wasn't similar to everything that we get nowadays, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. That doesn't mean it actually worked. I'm sure there will be some that watch this and appreciate it for what it is and the artistic merit that goes into it during certain scenes. There are certain scenes that are kind of effectively creepy. The stuff crawling on the people's arms, I'm like, ooh, okay, that's kind of working for me. But I'm in it for the story. I'm in it for the plot. I got nothing. I did not like this movie at all. I'm going 30% for Wounds. This is easily the worst horror film I've watched in the last couple of weeks, especially when you're comparing it to other movies on the streaming platform, and it's still the worst? That's not good. Let me know in the comments down below. Did you enjoy this movie? Did you watch it on Hulu or Netflix? For me, it was on Hulu. Couldn't find it on Netflix. I'd love to know. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. More reviews to come this weekend. One for The Laundromat, one for brand new Paul Rudd television series. A lot of things dropping, a lot of things to talk about. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to hit that thumbs up button and help out this channel. You guys are the best. I'll see you soon.